Hi, Denise. Welcome to Winter Grace.
Hi, really happy to be here. Thank you so much, Grace, for hosting this.
To start the show, I would love for the audience to get to know you a little bit more. So, you started your career in product management. So, you have worked on various iconic products like Yahoo, MuleSoft, Walmart, Twitter, Meta before joining Gradient. Maybe we could talk about like what were some core lessons that you've learned early on in your career, kind of like shape you into who you are today.
Yeah, I think before the specific early career lesson or things I learned, I think want to share kind of my personal experience of like how do I even get there, and from a few years of PM experiences, how did I eventually learn some insights and decided to switch the gear to a different industry. I think when I was a CS student, my undergrad's computer science, I realized I couldn't really dive into all the nitty gritty details in terms of like individual lines of code and be able to like spend a lot of time trying to debug and generating the software programs. So very quickly, I realized, oh, there's actually another role in the software company called product management. So that's kind of the moments when I fell in love immediately and decided to pursue that as my kind of first job ever after college, and was able to find a PM opportunity early on and start my PM career as an APN at Walmart.com, basically right after Jet.com acquisition happened. So I was working for both kind of Walmart.com and Jet.com kind of ecosystem, and later decided to join different tech companies, later join Twitter for a few years and witness all the Elon Musk drama happened, and later Meta AI built a lot of different types of the infra product over time. I think the first lesson is really diversifying the knowledge. So the way I figured is I did love user experience, the interface to start with, but later quickly realized having a little bit more full stack experience as a PM is very critical. So decided to do a little bit more kind of uh, exploration from the product side to the application solutions, so pipeline analytics, and eventually became an infra PM during my time when I was at Meta and built the feature engineering, which is a data pipeline for training pipeline for ML models. So I think having that full stack experience is definitely very, very helpful, at least for me for now as an investor, because I can look into a lot of different categories of the products in the company and also be a little bit more opinionated on partnership interface and also the infra layer context here. So that's definitely the first lesson. And the second insight or lesson is definitely, always push myself to certain limits, right? Really just like not just finish your scope, your product roadmap, but also constantly thinking about, the future, the next quarter's iteration, how does the macro trend impacts the product. So continue to be very forward thinking. I think it's the second lesson I learned when I was a PM before I did the career transition. So that would be the two insights.
I love that. I really like what you I guess like what you mentioned about like all the product lessons are about I guess like um a lot of it it's like probably teach you how to actually like build a successful product in the venture world as well. So like I saw that like, you have like um wrote a lot of like different like you invest in like B2B SaaS like in the AI space, and then a lot of the toolings are from the question that you on your panel you were mentioning about like, how to uh basically you were asking people like, what kind of tool are you using, and then like what kind of like things that you feel like in the agentic space that actually is implemented by the developers. Maybe we could start diving into a bit more about like your thesis on like the agent or AI space, and then I saw that you have various different like graphs. Maybe we could dive into some of the roadmaps as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, first of all, to look into my content, no matter blog post or in the podcast slash like the panel I did before. But yeah, well, thank you so much for pulling up the the LinkedIn post here. This is one of the blog posts from a while back. I think for this one specifically, I was thinking about as a former PM, right? One thing, the reason why PM, this job exists before was you need to figure out how to build products in terms of.
Hey guys, are we froze? Can anyone tell us if I'm froze or Denise is froze?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I don't know why. Maybe it froze.
Yeah, I think there's a weird Wi-Fi issue in our office.
Oh no.
Sorry about that. But I'm back.
Okay, yeah. Here's the graph.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I think I was saying when I was a PM, it's all about data collection. Data can be either your customer feedback data or it can be your product usage data. I was trying to figure out during the AI first era, no matter building AI first products or using AI to collect different types of the data to make a better product decision, how does that impact the overall product iteration speed? So that's why I came out with this graph and to just really look into for all the incumbents and also younger startups, how does everyone play a role in this data collection in the product iteration space? And the final conclusion here is there's a huge opportunity to really merge different formats of the data. I think historically you have your product analytics, product suites, you have your mixed panel amplitude type of the companies, really just focus on events data. And these type of company and also the newcomers, they start to not just collect the event data, but also start to collect the session recording data using VOM to start to properly understand the sessions better. So these are pretty much the marriage between, the events data and screen data. And on top of that, we have the user interview data that's also pretty isolated before the AI era, but nowadays there's opportunity to take more user interview, maybe through voice AI, and also leveraging VOM and language model again to synthesize all the user interview transcripts and results and merge with the rest of the data I just mentioned, no matter events or session screen recording. So in a way, there's a potential automation opportunity here to collect different data formats and using AI to analyze it versus hiring an army of analysts or PM to do that analysis for you. So that's kind of one insight I learned, and I do believe no matter you are a product builder, TL at a company or a PM lead at a company, it's pretty important to understand your product strategy, to how to collect the right data and how to merge them to generate the insights. So that's kind of one piece, kind of on the top part of the charts. And on the bottom of the chart is more around how does the visualization and the prototyping experiences got shifted by AI. So we all know that prompts to app or vibe coding tool become, the status quo, become the de facto tooling for a lot of people to use. So definitely see the product builder and including PM as well, including, like your designer, the design engineer as well, to leveraging this tool to quickly generate the prototype for better communication. And potentially, if there's any company who can bridge the gap from prototype to production code, I think it will definitely shorten the iteration time even further. So that's kind of on the bottom side of the diagram. Yeah, so that's pretty much the quick insights for this chart really just talk about how people can build product more quickly by collecting all types of the data types and also do a faster prototyping.
For sure. I wonder, when you're thinking about the agent orchestration side of things, like, so will there be like an agentic PM that kind of like manage all of these like different kind of toolings? And what does that entail? Is that kind of like an aid-in, or would you say it is an actual agent like that's actively connecting to all these different tools to like autonomize the process of like developing a product or managing a product?
Yeah, I do see agents more like an insights provider here, not necessarily taking over, a person's job here, right? The insights provider here is be able to reconcile the conflicting data points, be able to merge the unstructured data and structured data together, be able to, generate the insights in a meaningful and digestible formats versus give you a very long 4 pages of report. So I think AI agent is able to distill and communicates the insights for the most part, not necessarily replacing the human and all of a sudden just telling you, hey, here is the new feature that you should build to drive 10x user engagements. So that's kind of the first part. And any other orchestration need here, I do think if AI agent is able to, like monitor the status of each project and the status of each insights, I do think there's a kind of project management piece of the AI agent feature can be released to help, like not just PM, but also maybe the engineering lead, but maybe the founder themselves to streamline the process further, but more from the process management perspective, not necessarily replacing their core job, if that makes sense.
For sure. When I guess like when you're observing the toolings from whether it's this map or from like other different kind of like product toolings, what would you say is like one thing that like have in common across all these different subsectors?
All the
Yeah,
chat.
maybe whether it's like a feature, or I guess like what I'm trying to ask if there's like any I guess like so for example, I feel like since like ChatGPT, a lot of the um different toolings that I feel like I have encountered as a creator, their feature is kind of like a chat feature. So for example, on Canva, you can type in, hey, I want a poster that does act like, that has like, that's gonna celebrate my friend's birthday or whatever. Like, and then
Mhm.
from description, it generates a piece of content. Or, for example, all these different like video editing tools, same as that. Like, so you basically describe, cut X, Y, and Z, and then like eventually the product is
Mhm.
cutting those. So I feel like there's like a common thread, which is like a chat GPT-ish like chatting feature. So I wonder if that happens at like in the product arena as well.
Yeah, the interface experience here, right? Definitely heard a lot of people start to complain about the chat interface itself might not be the best interface for depends on the product types, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes maybe the visual based interface makes more sense. Sometimes maybe it's the other type, node based experiences might make more sense. I think for the product iteration stack, I think chat interface is not gonna go away because naturally, when I was a PM, and I'm pretty sure even now as an investor too, when I think about the product, I usually ask for a natural language question like, oh, how does the product engagements look like, for example. But I do think beyond chat interface, it's very important to have proper visualization around the chart. So the charts can be no matter your bar charts, your diagram, your line charts, your pie charts. I think it's important to have a stronger visualization to quickly communicate, oh, your engagements or your user is suffering from certain issue. You can use like maybe a bubble chart to indicate how severe the issue is. You can use a heat map to tell the product decision makers where does the product interface actually have issue. So having additional visual will definitely be very helpful, but that's more on the generation side, on the reporting or insights side. I think for the inputs, collecting the inputs from the user, chat interface is still primarily the core interface for most of the product builder, just because how naturally you want to know the product performance depends on the business use case and business context. Yeah.
For sure. I wonder when, I guess like when you're creating the graphs, like how do you typically do your own research on a specific sector? I guess like product is something that you have like worked on for a long time. Maybe we could talk about like the workflow of like actually researching a subject like this.
Yeah, if it's something I'm not fully familiar with, I think the way I do research is really broken down into kind of two phases. One is like me wandering around on the internet to collect all the high quality content, no matter it's a blog post from someone else or a research paper or another kind of product announcements from the incumbents. So that will be the first thing I will do, just collecting all the high quality content. I usually just leverage the deep research to find the meaningful data source. I don't just rely on the summary from the AI to understand it. I will go through individual data sources to read about it and having a few kind of bullet points notes. And if there's a product related research I have to do, I will try the product myself. So that's kind of the first phase of actions I will do. The second phase is really interview. So I will start to reach out to maybe 3 to 5, I think, who are the experts in this domain and really just learn from them. Quick 20 or 30 minutes meeting to understand how they think about the short term and long term opportunity, what's broken in the existing ecosystem, what's the trendy use cases, right? Depends on the macro trend. So these expert interview will be definitely the second phase of research I would do before having some opinions.
For sure. Sorry, I've been like coughing nonstop, so I'm like taking a cough drop just in case if I cough, like I'm
No
going.
worries. No worries. Yeah.
So I wonder when it comes to like the high quality research, what were some like kind of like piece of sources that you would use? Like would it be like the New York Times of the world or like, I feel like on deep research, the I think the problem is like what kind of prompt would you be putting in to get the result of like actually going deep? Because I think sometimes like the prompt if the prompt is like, hey, research blah area, and then there's like the outcome could be like over the place. What would be your go-to prompt for something that you want to research on?
Yeah, I fully agree with you. Sometimes the source provided by AI might be a bit too high level. I would definitely avoid, content publishers or media simply because relatively high level. Because I want to know the acquisition, M&A of size of course, those media data is very helpful. For the need details about cases and also differentiation, I will make sure I my eye from really focus on the technical blogs, maybe the companies, instances, right? It really focus on the popular papers from the AI and or really uh, into plots like this and I understand or like hacker news to really understand what some discussions the individual kind of practitioner is thinking. So that can be very helpful to help me to optimize my prompts a little bit more. So eventually if I add the block dependency or like or some news dependency prompt thinking yeah doing a job fine higher quality.
I think there's some issue on the voice end. I don't know why. I feel like
Okay.
when I hear the voice, it's kind of like one word at a time. I don't know if the audience hear the same thing or maybe it's on my end, but I hear you. So like I hear the general direction. So basically, I think uh, uh I guess like when you're thinking about like putting together like the roadmap for 2026, what are some like subcategory of the AI SaaS space that you're most excited about?
Yeah, by the way, if you are still having a hard time to hear me, let me know. I will try to either remove my headsets or try different headsets. Just tell me if the voice sounds unclear right now.
Okay, I think you sounds perfect right now.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That sounds good. So the question was like, how does the like
2026.
2026?
Yeah, 2026 trends.
Yeah, 2026 trends. I think I don't want to have a very specific, oh, this category makes sense or that category doesn't make sense. I think overall, I do believe the production traffic for AI agents will definitely skyrocket. And because of that, I think there's a lot of interesting new demand, right, appear in the markets, not necessarily from application perspective, but maybe more from infrastructure perspective. So if you think about like AI agents nowadays is usually having a longer context. Usually the thinking process is longer because the reasoning. And also the modality can be a little bit more diverse. It's not just gonna be the text results, can be the visual results as well. So once these type of requirements became massive in production, I think infrastructure will naturally have to catch up as well. So I do think anything that impacts inference efficiency will be very interesting, will be very kind of highly in demand in 2026. So examples can be like right now, if you want to do some AI inference, most likely you leverage the GPU as the core hardware. But a lot of time, some inference can be a little bit more, underutilized. Maybe the GPU itself is underutilized because a lot of memory bounded workloads were there. So I think in 2026, I hope there's some vendors or solutions in the markets to optimize the inference efficiency from things like, oh, be able to identify which key value cache is more cold, which tensor is more inactive. As a result, really kind of move that piece of data from the GPU to CPU memory, for example. That you see kind of be able to cost and increase the performance, and at the same time really just you know utilize all the features fully. So I do believe and I do hope to see more kind of companies work on this problem around maybe disaggregated compute or inference optimization to ensure we're not going to just fully rely on more GPU, more data centers to power the future AI agents usage in production. That's kind of the high level direction I'm seeing right now, and I really think not just the language model, diffusion model can receive the benefits from it. Even reinforcement learning, the post-training workloads can receive dynamic resource management solutions like this. So that's kind of the high level trend one I see in the markets. Happy to chat more in terms of the other trend in 2026, but this is top of mind because I am doing some research in this category. That's why it's definitely something I want to share.
For sure. Maybe if you could give us some example of like some companies in the space that you're very excited about.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, of course, like any scale is top of mind, right? Their core focus is really on the CPU side of things, but for similar use case and benefits. And I think for the newer, younger framework from, for example, from Meta, VLM is another very popular framework. And I think if that framework is a company, I think it will definitely be very meaningful companies in this category in terms of like really be able to identify what's the right kind of key value cache, can turn that into page, and later leveraging the metadata to understand if the status is active or inactive, and later correspondingly to do some optimization. So I think any scale VLM, these type of players in the markets are definitely top of mind, and hopefully to see more interesting framework appear in the markets to tackle this problem.
I wonder, I guess I really, I think one thing that I wrote down is like you mentioned about like the, I guess like the inference efficiency. I guess like maybe we could chat more about like what does that kind of like entail. So like I guess like the other day I was chatting with another investor. So basically her opinion for next year is like gonna be a lot of like automation or like I guess like I asked her like what is a new word for AI agent for going forward in 2026, because of like I
Hmm.
feel like 2025 it's like very agentic focus. Everyone's building AI agents. But for 2026, and she mentioned that like maybe it's like automation. So like a lot of the stuff are automized. I guess like do you see the same trend in like your domain, or do you feel like it's like a different like keywords that will like kind of like surround us in like 2026?
Well, I think keywords wise, agents is not going away. I have to say, even though 2025 is AI agent, everyone's building AI agents, but the production adoption is a different story, right? Majority of the AI agents doesn't really perform as expected because the workflows the users are looking for can be very very complex, very long tail, and the existing agents intelligence and also the tool call availability is not really there to help everyone to achieve whatever use case they have. So I think next year, I really hope AI agents can be more adopted in production. And I think what I mentioned for inference efficiency, the automation piece there is definitely automatically detects what's the memory utilization between different hardware in your workloads. So you can properly, like allocate the hardware to the right workloads. So automation definitely apply to the infra engineers configurations perspective. But back to the agent itself, I hope the agent's accuracy can be higher. The completion rates of agents to workloads, to different workflows can be higher. And I really hope different techniques like reinforcement learning, things like that, can be very helpful to make AI agents perform better over time to achieve the true agent adoption in production. So that's how I will think about this. So if I have to pick a keywords, I really hope reinforcement learning itself as a category can be properly adopted by not just a model company, but also agent native companies, and also hopefully enterprise once they have a little bit more agent traffic in production.
For sure. Speaking of reinforcement learning, I feel like reinforcement learning is very uh so I guess like maybe if you could give us a an example of like, the actual implementation on that. Whatever, I think the first time I heard about reinforcement learning is at NVIDIA GTC, because there's so many robots, and then like people were saying it's like kind of like AI teaching other AI on, or like AI self-correcting the AI. But I guess like what would be your explanation on like reinforcement learning, and how do you see that kind of like implement in different industries?
Yeah, I think RL was more popular last year with human feedback. So a lot of companies, no matter the RL provider or the company who want to apply RL, really just rely on getting the production example and also the human feedback to properly label individual examples and use that as the data sets to reinforcement learn the model. I
Mhm.
think nowadays the trend is really towards as you said, like AI to teach AI. So a lot of reward model were trained. So this reward model is based on the expert's inputs, and later the reward model can be automatically apply, certain score or certain kind of, description or label per data sets. So the way to generate the data sets for RL is more scalable. So that's kind of the core trend for this year. So as a result, we definitely see a lot of companies more focused on the RL data side, and also some companies focus on the RL infra side. So on the data side, it's really just creating different, environments or different reward model, different evaluation framework, and making sure the reward a lot of time is verifiable to generate that high quality data per different domain. The domain can be coding agents domain, the domain can be computer use for CRM, for ERP, the domain can be financial data, how to generate a financial model. So per domain, there are many companies who are generating those high quality data from, again, environments and eval, and also the reward model perspective. And after those data are generated, there are another group of companies really focused on building the RL framework slash infra. to ensure the RL training loops can be properly implemented. So that's kind of, the solutions from companies like OpenPipe later got acquired, and also like definitely Tinker from Thinking Machines more on the latter side. But the former side, we definitely see large amount of the RL environments company for early stage investors. Everyone is aware of that. Large amount of the RL environments companies were in the markets in the last like 10 months or 11 months this year. So that's kind of how I think about this overall category kind of evolve this year. Yeah, really one side is from the data side, another is from the infra side.
For sure. I wonder maybe we could talk about like from exit perspective. So like I feel like what are some trends that you're seeing from like the macro side that kind of like impact how you are kind of like looking at things today?
Yeah, the exits definitely see more and more like M&A sort of the uh, kind of exits versus going IPO recently, or at least for this year. Even like this morning, IBM acquired Confluent to really kind of make sure streaming data nowadays have a proper exits, and that's $11 billion if I remember that correctly. Massive outcome. So we definitely see those kind of incumbents, multi-year, multi-generations incumbents in a way are, they don't really shy away from quickly acquire the proper and modern tech stack to give their companies a little bit more fresh air, and also help. Part of it is also maybe talent acquisition, not necessarily for this acquisition, just a lot of other acquisitions we see in the markets is really about really get the fresh blood, the right talents to the company, the right tech stack to the company to help those incumbents, those mega enterprise to quickly adopt the AI wave. I think the other examples we keep seeing, for example, one of our portfolio companies, ML, they did an amazing job on compiler optimization, actually also for both inference and training, but inference for the most part. And they got acquired by NVIDIA earlier this year. And we also see that as an amazing outcome in terms of like, if the team, the company is really specialized in very hard problem, the sector better sometimes. It's usually outcome a little fast, even though there are competitors in the markets, but the tech differentiation is very clear. I think very quickly the larger company will definitely show their preference of acquiring the smaller startups. So we see this kind of playbook happen multiple times this year.
I wonder when you're thinking about, I guess like, maybe we could talk about like from the since like you just mentioned like IBM uh acquired Confluence, so I feel like a lot of the people are paying attention to the data storage space because I think I was chatting with this with like Madison from NEA last week as well. So like what kind of data should be storage because instead of like storing every data, people are more focusing on like the context of the data. So I don't know if you see the same trends and then if there's any interesting startups coming around that way about memory or I guess like the storage itself.
Yeah, I think agent memory management itself was a pretty popular context for a while in terms of like, hey, you want to know when do you want to fetch what part of the memory of the agents without exhaust the context window. So that as one use case in the markets when it comes to building AI agents is definitely top of mind for a lot of people. So that's why that category was pretty popular earlier this year. But in terms of like storage for long term, I think we can think about storage not just from agent memory as one. We can think about just higher level. How do you store unstructured data even in a cheaper way and quickly get the right unstructured data from your storage by understanding each metadata of the unstructured data? That can be its own big opportunity. So the unstructured data, traditionally, everyone just upload their files to S3. So perhaps there's a new generation of S3 can be kind of more optimized, can be even cheaper than S3, or it can be more kind of smartly identify what's the right context of the file to be fetched quickly. So that can be one. And the other type of the unstructured data can be even video. Video itself is a very kind of large and expensive storage itself, but nowadays the demand for, video generation, image generation is definitely higher. And I think in a way, just as interface perspective, people prefer, the non-text interface moving forward. So definitely see in the future, the video gen and image gen will make more videos and images. So how do you store those type of expensive formats? And do you have to provide a new generation of storage for that to lower the cost, and also maybe again store more image and video metadata as well to have the image and video search be cheaper, more accurate? I think that would be a very interesting angle when it comes to how storage or data set of world and time.
I wonder, so when you're thinking about, I guess like, you guys recently invested in Anchor. So maybe we could talk about like use any of your it doesn't have to be this one, but like use any of your portfolio as an example of like how you find the company to how you uh like see the market, how you diligence it to eventually think about like winning and exiting. By the way, I think the headphone sound is on again. I don't know if
Oh,
it's
really? Just now, or
uh I
let me
think
just like remove my headsets entirely. So hopefully, just
yeah,
default using the laptop one. How about now? Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you now. Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. If there's any echo, let me know. This room is pretty spacious. Sorry, what's the question? Like the diligence?
So using one of the portfolio company as an example to like talk about like how you think about the market to thinking about like diligencing the company to winning and exiting. It doesn't have
Yeah,
to be right now since it's very early stage.
yeah, many portfolio companies. I think the common way for us to really find the companies is really leveraging the user community. So we talk to a lot of different type of the agent builder, for example, to understand what are the popular toolings they're using nowadays. And from there, we have a few candidates, depends on category. Maybe it's browser infra related, maybe it's reinforcement learning related, maybe it's dev experience, end-to-end kind of testing related, no matter what the use case is. And from word of mouth, very quickly, we have a list of company, and we will sometimes try the product ourselves if we do have some time. And also we'll definitely try our best to go through all the user feedback and check all the documents and check all the discussion we can find online. And eventually we'll be able to offer opinions around, oh, this company is definitely having a meaningful roadmap and direction. And these are basically all the work we do before we kind of reach out and talk to the company. And once we start the conversations, right, with the founders, definitely just want to know the founders' personality and style and their drive, their motivation better. So it's more on the personal level, not necessarily on the business level. But of course, after we know the founder more, we definitely will double down on figuring out the long-term thinking of the roadmap and how does the competitive landscape really look like, really have these kind of back and forth discussion with the founder. And that usually, is good enough for us to make a meaningful conclusion and decision. So usually that process can range from 2 weeks to 4 weeks, really depends on, the amount of the data that we can collect. So that's kind of the end-to-end process, if that makes sense.
I wonder maybe we could use like any of the example of like, how you like if there's anything that you are thinking about like most recently, it doesn't have to be like an existing portfolio company, but like what are something that you are looking at right now, and then how are you kind of like evaluating whether it's like the founder or like the market that you personally hold like a particular perspective on.
Yeah, I can talk about one of our portfolio company called Plato. It's in the reinforcement learning space. So that kind of helps me to understand the overall markets better. I think earlier this year, we noticed there are many companies who are building, I hate to say that, but some people refer that as like building fake websites so you can sell those data to model companies to make money. So it sounds very simple and doesn't have a lot of opportunities there. But the more you dig in and the more I learn from the founders, I realized, hey, it's not about just vibe coding the replica of the websites and sell the solution to the market. Sorry, to the model company. It's not like that. It's all about building a high quality environments and making sure the environments is as close to production as possible, which takes a lot of efforts, and also be able to figure out what's the realistic workflow and task and use cases that the AI agent testing around the environments should look like. And on top of that, a more sophisticated roadmap here can really be things like figuring out what's the right evaluation, what's the right kind of rubric that you should identify and help the agents to generate during those kind of task generation phase. So a lot of nitty gritty details are there, not to mention, once you want to generate enough test sets for reinforcement learning, you also have to ensure the environments is very stable infra-wise, so you can spin up many test cases thousands or even 10K, 100K environments at the same time. So infra itself is very difficult to build as well. So the more I dig in and learn from the founder, the more I believe, hey, it's not just a data provider perspective, it's also a potential to really create an end-to-end RL infra business for this company perspective is for computer use as a modality. So in the future, Grace, if you want to, having a computer agents to automate you clicking to an email, download the attachments from the email, looking to the third page of the attachments and getting a few customer information and updates that into your CRM. That complex process in the agent automation will never happen unless we have a proper RL companies like my portfolio company Plato to make it work. So that's kind of how I learn how sophisticated the workflow can be and how massive the market opportunity can be after doing some early due diligence with this company, which eventually became our portfolio. And I think the second part of your questions, in general, the way we want to earn the trust from the founder is really through, customer introduction or things like providing a lot of organic discussion about the roadmap, helping the customer to create BD events to help them get closer with the customer. So a lot of supports we usually offer in the hope to win the deal is really on the go-to-market side as a firm. So that's one more thing I definitely want to mention. And of course, we also do have our hiring support here, our PR/marketing supports here as well. So as a firm, we always want to win a deal by just providing a lot of operational support directly.
I wonder, so like what you're thinking about, like I guess like creating the client intro or like customer acquisition. Do you have your own like personal CRM or like roadmap on like, for example, if I meet X company and then like, there is like a list of that is this the people that have talked to or whatever, like how do you kind of like organize your own like I would say unstructured data, but like how do you kind of like organize your own personal, whether it's CRM or like kind of like the market roadmap for yourself?
It's a great question. I wish I more organized in terms of like getting this data into do have I wish that I should have to really make sure I fill the so ideally for like maybe you the for the for founders. I do prefer using tooling like Linear, the classic project management tool, to kind of just identify and ensure I capture every single interactions I had with these potential buyers. So I have my Linear, it might be, individual project, every project can be a thing. It can be AI agent infra related. It can be designer or design engineer related. And from there, I'm able to kind of import individual person. I can just, copy paste a link to my spreadsheets, and in my spreadsheets, that's where the final kind of names really sits. And so I just really leverage linear to capture, oh, what's the status I have, right, for individual types of the BD supports I'm offering. And however, for creating and finding the individual prospects, I usually leverage tools like Clay or just simply use my LinkedIn search to find these people. So I haven't really fully automated the workflow around that. If you have any recommendation, definitely want to hear that. But yeah, definitely use Clay, and definitely also use one of our portfolio company, Freckle, a lot as well to do enrichments. They are doing amazing job. You only need the names, and later you can easily enrich all the metadata about that person through our portfolio company, Freckle. So Clay and Freckle for the most part is another way for me to populate meaningful information for my CRM. But again, I personally use Linear as the kind of the umbrella tool to dive into the individual types of the BD and the go-to-market supports I have, which can be a little bit more controversial than the others. I haven't really heard anyone else who are doing this through Linear.
I feel you. I wonder, so when it comes to like collecting the, I guess like as you mentioned about like your kind of like your own tool stack for collecting the CRM, but like I guess like when you're, for example, you are doing renewed map for next year's for the iteration stack. So like
Mhm.
how you kind of like collect the, I guess like the different company in each different roadmap. Like so I guess like when you're scheduling your own time as an investor, like do you set like for example this week we're only gonna do interview tooling
Oh.
testing, and the next week we're doing session recording like tooling testing, or like how do you kind of like structure your own time to creating these map but also like chatting with different company within that kind of like subcategory?
Yeah, I think this is a really great question because we're talking about like three different types of the testing, right? One is for my personal productivity, one is for my thesis, and the last one is the active conversation with the founder. I think the Freckle linear thing, that's kind of for my first personal use case, and finding and getting the time to try the thesis based tooling. That's really a marathon. It's more like a marathon versus a quick 1 week sprint thing, right? So I think usually every quarter, perhaps I will identify one or two categories I really want to dig in. This can be categories like what I said earlier, the RL tooling stacks. It can also be back to my blog post, the product iteration stack. It can be something else. Next year, I want to spend more time, maybe looking to the voice stack, the voice infra stack, whatever that is. So every quarter, I have a high level category, and later, maybe during the weekends, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, I will allocate a couple of hours to do the research thing I mentioned earlier, like really identify all the documents and start to interview people. So I would do those research thing and also try the product if I do have time. If I do have time, I will just download the package, for example, or watching all the demo video, sign up for the free accounts and try it by myself. And definitely still continue to use the weekend time to do those kind of exploration based research for more like a thesis work, if that makes sense.
For sure. When I guess like when you're picking the people that you're chatting with, would you say like you would like pick, let's say like this person's LinkedIn title is, I don't know, like product at blah 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 company that like you that's on your radar, or like how do you kind of like find the first hand resources to like kind of like help you build your own thesis?
Yeah, that's kind of, there's no one answers for this. It's really try all the possible ways. It can be friends of friends. It can be my former coworkers. It can be I came across the LinkedIn page and I reached out. Or the other very effective channel is really I periodically host dinner with a lot of time founders, sometimes operators as well. I think through those in-person discussion, I naturally find the right kind of experts for certain topics. So I'll reach out again, maybe a couple weeks later after meeting them in person, or really reach out to them and see whether they know someone who know the experts or practitioner who are working on the specific domain that I'm doing the research against. So those in-person conversation, in-person relationship building is very important. Maybe people want to meet, learn from people, having meaningful conversations. It's the fun part of the job. So,
Love that. I wonder when you are, I guess, like when you're building up your own, like, I guess like a dinner group, or like when you're picking the people that you're kind of like, I wouldn't say sourcing idea, but like kind of like brainstorming with. So I guess like how do you think about the people that will make a good product? So are they just like researchers, are they tech, or like you typically do you have like a source funnel that you personally really bullish about? Like, what would you say it's like an underserved like community for like potential founders?
on the future community for potential founders, huh? That's a great question. I haven't really thought about from underserved perspective, but my approach is really depends on the thing. I usually pick a thing. The thing, if it's more agent developer tool related, I will want to double down on engaging with smart people who are AI agent infra engineer, AI agent infra lead TL in that space. So that can be its own category. But if tomorrow I need to figure out, the vision of AI for science, in that case, I would definitely double down on AI researchers, perhaps who are currently still at school. And so it really depends on the thing, not necessarily, thinking about which group is more underserved, so double down on that. I think usually it kind of aligns with the firm's thesis, my personal thesis. So usually the thesis and also the group of smart people we want to learn from is pretty aligned over here.
For sure. I want to be mindful of time, and then maybe we wrap with a quick fire round for you.
Oh,
Uh, okay,
exciting.
what's your favorite book?
That's a great question. It's a little bit old-fashioned. My favorite book is Science. That's one of I should practice from a time ago, but that's kind of the very good that teaches is processing software.
Who would you invite to your dinner party?
Like whoever,
It's your party.
it's my party. Who do I want to invite to my dinner party? I definitely do want to invite my favorite CEO, Jack Dorsey. He was my CEO when I was at Twitter, and I'm still a big fan.
Who made the biggest impact in your career?
Biggest impacts to my career, I would say Jennifer Lee from A16Z Infra Teng. She's the GP there. She was my mentor when I was at school. And yeah, when I had a hard time doing my PM interview, she was the biggest supporter. So she was the most important inspiration and career mentor for me.
Where can we find you outside of work?
Core power yoga. I do core power yoga almost every other day.
I love that. Well, uh, such a healthy queen. Thank you so much for coming on to the show today. I guess like what would be one? By the way, I know that we're about to be out of time, but like why not do a active one? But like, what is like a good? I guess like, what would be one trend that you predict for like 2026 in the AI space?
Yes. Even though I mentioned like the very high level kind of infra optimization thing, but I do want to see bigger adoption of open source. Open source models are doing so well, no matter Llama or many other models like Quen or others. I think open source model, I hope it can be going through a massive or bigger adoption next year. So hopefully that will be the direction, and hopefully that will encourage the closed source model company to also open source more models to make the model layer become more like a meaningful competition and encourage everyone to spend less money on the infra. Usually open source are cheaper. So that's kind of the direction I'm hoping the next year, 2026, will look like.
Love that. Well, thank you so much, Denise, for coming on the show today. It was such a fun conversation, despite
Yeah,
some like technical
much
up and downs. But yeah, thank you. Let
appreciate
me and this one.